decks, and the stage is set to crown a champion. So who is it going to be? Is it going to be Gia from the Asia Pacific region or Songbird from the hometown USA? We're about to find out, so get ready. Tell your friends, because it's time to play some Hearthstone. Let's kick things off not too far away from where we just left you guys. Spiteful Summer Druid coming out here from Gia, but you know, once again, I'm still a skeptic, and I am willing to be converted if it can finally show me what it's got. In the meantime, Songbird, aka Cora, which we'll be referring to her from now on for people, of course, tuning in very late into the broadcast, but heard the Grand Finals is underway. Cora is going to be on Even Paladin featuring Spirit of the Tiger, which, again, you know, you heard it from me and Kilbert before, but we're big fans of that card.
Yeah, Spirit of the Tiger is a very powerful tool in the arsenal of Even Paladin, particularly in matchups, I think like this one, where you gain a lot of benefit from being able to get additional sort of tempo from your removal spells, being able to Equality Consecration, and suddenly, you know, you have a army of a couple of minions there. You can Spike Ridge Steed and get, you know, not only a protected Spirit of the Tiger, but also a 6/6. And this is a matchup where the Spiteful Druid is looking to develop a lot of powerful stuff in the mid game, and Spirit of the Tiger can help you sort of fight against that if they get a advantage on the board. Okay, well, I'll play my Stealth Minion into a Spike Ridge Steed, and that really can swing things back.
Yeah, you can already see some of the tech differences that Gia chose to put in her list. Primarily the Stone Shell Scavenger. This is a card that was played in, you know, a token taunt druid in a way. Like you would use it to really buff up big Serenite Chain Gangs, or you use it for Scarab tokens off Spreading Plague. Do you feel like this would be the key to perhaps unlocking the deck?
It's interesting. I haven't really seen versions of Spiteful Druid that use this card in the past, but it is very powerful, of course, with the Serenite Chain Gang. If your opponent doesn't answer a Chain Gang, suddenly enormous swing. She's also playing 2 copies of Tar Reaper and 2 copies of Crypt Lord, so she just has natural curves of 3 into 4 that can give you powerful board tempo pretty much immediately. It is less powerful in a matchup like this, where your opponent does have the ability to clear your board off with Equality Consecration, Equality Pyromancer, but could give her the ability to secure the board in the early stages if Cora does not have those answers.
Yep, don't have to worry about it too early, though, in terms of the consecration and the quality stuff. Things are still kind of feeling each other out. That Keleseth draw could be what's also missing from so many of those Spiteful Summer Druid decks. We're talking about how that deck just feels like it can't really get started because, you know, it just always had very weak starts, but I don't think we really saw any Keleseth.
We have not seen Keleseth drawn in the Spiteful Druid games yet, I believe. There may have been some that we tuned into late, where we saw the conclusion when we were doing our waves earlier, but we haven't seen one that was actually drawn in the early stages in any of the games that we have watched in full. So here, a couple of options for Gia. The Glass Knight is a bit of a nuisance and a very scary minion as a potential buff target. But she does have the ability to kill it if she wants to just throw her entire board into it, and then could play a Chain Gang with that backup of the Strong Shell Scavenger. Because she could also just straight up trade, you know, value trade this board, attack, say, the Keleseth into the 1/1, and then attack the Glacial Shard into the Divine Shield, and then use the Scavenger to take down the Glass Knight and wipe everything off of Cora's board.
Yeah, I'm really afraid of letting my opponents stick stuff onto the board, especially since Glass Knight has synergy with things like Truce over Champion to keep gaining that Divine Shield back like you were talking about. So I like removing it. The only thing is that Spiteful Summer, I don't feel like this deck will continue to flourish if it only just keeps trading, because even Paladin would like that.
Okay, so Gia's actually just going to try to maximize her board here. There's a couple of things this does. One is it obviously makes this the Strong Shell Scavenger potentially very strong next turn. You know, if Cora is unable to answer multiple minions here, it's a very big board swing. And yeah, Cora, she does have that Spirit of the Tiger, but it's not going to be able to answer the taunt minions, so we're going to see a Strong Shell Scavenger come down and do a lot of work, I think. The Fungalmancer gives Gia options, though.
Yeah, it's very similar to the Strong Shell Scavenger, because it does basically the same stats, a little bit weaker because it costs more mana but it also only puts a weaker body on the board.
Well, one of the things about Fungalmancer versus Scavenger is that any minion works with Fungalmancer. Whereas Strong Steel Scavenger, you know, say you use the Fungalmancer this turn and your opponent kills your Serenade Chain Gangs, then your buffs from the Strong Steel Scavenger potentially won't do anything later on. So that's definitely something that Gia needs to consider in terms of which of these buffs she chooses to use.
Yeah, it could just be an opportunity to utilize Strong Steel Scavenger for really good value, honestly. It's like 4 mana, you get an additional 4/4 stats, so it's a 4 mana 6/7. And that just feels very powerful, given that your opponent will come up on the need to clear it immediately or else will get overwhelmed. The big asterisk to that is, 1, they could equality clear. 2, the Spirit of the Tiger going up on turn 6 is also very scary. Very appropriately trades, doesn't want to overextend.
This is an interesting situation because the Avenging Wrath is pretty appealing because of the 2 1-health minions on the board. She's going to get a 6/6 regardless, and if this goes well, okay, that was a pretty good result. She gets a 6/6, kills both these, but there's still 2 minions on the board. This Fungalmancer can still come down.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot the Fungalmancer actually got buffed, so it was a little bit better stat-wise from the Kelseth. I wonder if that's going to influence anything. Maybe, maybe not. I think what's really coming down to it is, can Gia put enough pressure to really force Korra in a bad spot, and then use that Ultimate Infestation to go over the top. When Songbird exhausts her resource and they go a little bit even, that's when Ultimate Infestation is at its best.
Yeah, ooh, Gia decides to go to the face here, which obviously is powerful in a lot of situations, but does leave Korra with an excellent Spikeridge Steed target.
Yeah, it's a punish. Spikeridge Steed.
She's actually, okay, she's going to go ahead and make the... This is interesting. She could have steeded... it's going to take 6 damage, so it ends up being just... I don't know. I guess all the minions on the board right now at least trade into this.
Wow.
Well, this is a...
This is the best draw possible for Gia. And she gets Deathwing. Quite possibly the strongest minion outside of Tyrantus. You can argue that, you know, getting another high-impact minion like Mulch Muncher might be better.
Korra really needs to find equality. This is the kind of the refrain of any Paladin deck when it is in a disadvantaged position is, okay, I need this equality, and she...
No lifesteal.
There's no lifesteal here, so she does have a big Corpse Taker, but...
Oh my goodness!
Wow, okay, big Corpse Taker, not nearly as big as a Deathwing, not nearly as big as whatever is coming off of that.
I heard legends about this. You know, Teeves was tweeting about her match against Gia in the top 8, and she said that she got swept by the Spiteful Druid from Gia, primarily because the Spiteful Druid was clicking on all cylinders, the Kelseth on 2 into really powerful minions, and you know, people kind of forget that this deck can do exactly that.
I do like this though from Gia here. She could have played the Spiteful Summoner, of course, but right now, Korra's in a position where she needs to equality anyway, right? You're going to kill her with this board. You don't need to play another enormous minion. This way she actually is able to clear off both minions because she uses her hero power to clear the Divine Shield and doesn't actually lose her Spiteful Summoner.
Yeah.
And even if she does get equality cleared, there's just another Spiteful Summoner.
That's right. So then how does Korra respond to this very nicely placed pressure onto herself? You know, at this point, if she goes for a clear attempt, it's not guaranteed. And if she goes for a taunt minion, I mean, that's really easy to blow by.
Right.
Looking at if Gia has Silence in her deck. She does not. She replaced it with things like the Scavenger that we saw earlier.
Reporting for duty.
Well, the Pyromancer comes down and gets a bit of the health off of all of these minions, and I think part of the reasoning here behind playing this the Pyromancer rather than just hero powering, you want to soften up your opponent's minions with the spellcast trigger, and B, you want to have a more attack on the actual minion in the way because you want to be able to potentially Avenging Wrath down your opponent's Deathwing here, or potentially Consecration it down. Both these larger minions, 5/2 and 12/4. This is not quite lethal, I think, but she can't connect with 12 right here, which does mean that Ultimate Infestation is just going to end up threatening lethal next turn.
Yeah, that's right, and there's nothing that Songbird can do about this at least from what we see. So she needs some help off the top, but I can't think of an individual card that can.
Yeah, Consecration can help clear things up with Avenging Wrath,
Yeah.
but there's no way for her to survive that Ultimate Infestation.
Yeah, at this point, all feels kind of moot. Yeah, a little bit of inefficiency with sequencing, but not going to be that big of a difference because Gia has the UI to stop this game right now and take the victory. And a pretty big one because I read the spreadsheet correctly this time. Spiteful Druid does struggle against Even Paladin. And now Even Paladin goes down for Korra. That's a big win for Gia.
It is, absolutely. And we saw, we were saying that Gia's deck there was just firing all cylinders. She had Keleseth on 2. She had the Saronite Chain Gang into the Strong Shell Scavenger. Korra, though, she struggled. She had a lot of her expensive cards. She never found a quality, never had answers to that Spiteful Summoner into the Deathwing.
That's right. So now remaining for Korra is Death Rattle Hunter and Big Spell Mage up against Spiteful Summoner Druid. And, you know, it's one of those scenarios where now that the series has been blown wide open by Druid of all classes, which I wasn't expecting going into this series, I thought Druid would kind of be fodder, cannon fodder, if you will. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. Let's head over to TJ at the desk and hear what he and the gang think about that.
I personally have been talking smack about Spiteful Druid this whole tournament.
Why?
And now it's doing good.
Yeah, that's unlucky for you, huh? Gia's Spiteful Druid's a little different, though, with that Strong Shell Scavenger and all those taunts. Spiteful Druid already liked to play a bunch of taunts on 3, stuff like Tar Creeper and Crypt Lord, and then Chain Gang on 4, and that just does a pretty good job of supporting Strong Shell Scavenger. What do you think?
No, Druid of the Scythe is tacked in there as well. I mean,
Yeah.
taunts are such a major facet of Spiteful Druid because it doesn't have any spells to protect itself. It's just going to be using minions to get in the way. So when you have that, a lot of times you don't pressure your opponent. And so Strong Shell Scavenger, I think, is a very natural fit for that. She sacrificed silences to get that done, but you can see that without a quality, it's pretty good against classes that are most demanding of silence, and in this case, Even Paladin.
Yeah, I mean, again, right, that's a great point. Against Even Paladin in particular, you want those silences, and even without the silences, she was still able to get there off the power of that Strong Shell Scavenger. It was very efficient this game.
Yeah, and before we head back over to get into game number 2, I do want to give a quick update on the bounties. While Overkill and the Mad Band category are not yet set in stone, the Mad Band we're still calculating. I did get word that Gia, because she solidified her spot in the finals and Korra can't catch her because she can't get a sweep in this series, Gia has won the bounty of Clean Sweeper, an extra $1,000 tacked on that prize pool.
Always love to see that. And I'm, kind of looking at the decks left, Rogue and Paladin and Druid. Gia's Paladin deck is meant to kill with Horsemen. The Druid deck, it's pretty much just going to kill you straight up with, few attacks. Rogue's not going to be buffing that big. Hunter's not going to be getting that big. Mage isn't going to be getting that big. Looking like, for me, Chainland's going to have that one locked up, too.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't want to counter out yet. No, I'll counter out. I don't think there's a single way that you can get 39
incredibly
or 40 damage
difficult.
overkill. But that's the update on the bounties. But as we heard earlier, Teebs got 3-0'd by Gia's Spiteful Druid. So we'll see if the same fate is in store for Korra in this grand finals. We're going to send it back over to Brian Kilber and Frodan to get back to the action.
Thank you very much, TJ, and a good summary of why Gia should be feared as a player. And, honestly, for people who are still on the fence, because they don't get to see Gia that often at, like, say, the Hearthstone Championship, seasonal champs. But that is why she, in many of the minds of peers and casters alike, respect her a lot, and as well as Korra. So it's just, obviously, all memes aside, it's really cool to see casters compete. Not just the fact that they're winning, but also just on the stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I actually have to agree with the way that Gia has built the Spiteful Druid deck. I think that a lot of people have kind of just gone to previous iterations of Spiteful Druid, but I really like in sort of analyzing it as we've been sitting here, the particular build she's playing with the Strong Shell Scavengers, because it does give her such a more powerful mid game than a lot of builds with this deck. A lot of versions we've seen, kind of struggle. Just they don't really get their pieces together and they don't do anything really powerful. That game Gia just played, then she was doing such powerful things, and frankly, in a format that decks are so strong, that's what it takes to win.
Yeah, well, let's see if Gia can keep that up for game number 2 up against Big Spell Mage, or as I like to call it, BS Mage. And I think that this deck used to struggle against the Spiteful Druid, and I don't see anything else that indicated that it still can't, or it still has a bad matchup against it. Excuse me, I said that terribly. Thank God I don't talk for a living. I think Big Spell Mage still can struggle because nothing has really impacted the metagame to indicate otherwise.
It's true that there is, there are not very many new tools for Big Spell Mage. And frankly, I do think Gia's build is more focused on kind of snowballing than some other builds, but does, still have Spiteful Summoner, still has Ultimate Infestation, and those are the cards that really can make the life miserable for the Big Spell Mage. But Korra does have access to, of course, Polymorph, Meteor, all these big mass removal effects.
Oh.
You see the specific list that Gia is playing up on the screen there, and that Strong Shell Scavenger package that we were talking about. She has Crypt Lord into Tar Creeper into Chain Gang into Strong Shell Scavenger. That was what felt so powerful in the previous game. I do want to go back to Gia's previous turn because she does have a Greedy Sprite in hand, and she could have played Greedy Sprite last turn to guarantee that ramp. I think that she chose not to because she can still develop as a threat. She's not ramping into anything meaningful at 5 mana here, and the ramp is key to go to 7 at this point. So she can have it even die next turn and have that still be fine.
No, it's a really good point. A lot of people are always so quick to throw out things to ramp, but what you can do with the Greedy Sprite is use it to pressure or even force a hero power from your opponent and then make them play a little bit inefficient with their mana. That being said, I'm always a big fan of ramping. I feel like that's the main function for Greedy Sprite, and I mean, it's pretty ironic it's called Greedy Sprite because it felt like a fairly greedy play from Gia.
Yeah, I wanted to go into why you might do that, but I don't know, given the way that this is going to play out, that it's going to end up working out for Gia because if she plays Greedy Sprite next turn, there's no reason for Korra to kill it, and then it won't actually ramp her to that 7 mana. So she may just be playing normally on curve because she just choose to just not throw that in.
Yeah, and I'm trying to look at other 5 mana cards or 5 or 6 mana cards to ramp, and it turns out there actually is none worthwhile outside of Zilliax, because a Fungal Mancer wouldn't even really be possible because there's no minions on board, and you're not going to Leroy on 5 against Big Spell Mage unless you're Dennis in 2018. So with no 6 mana minions and basically just Zilliax, I felt like that was okay, but at the same time she still hasn't gotten to that point. And now she can't play Spiteful Summoner on the curve that she would like to.
Right, and I don't know that the body of the Greedy Sprite's going to end up really mattering too much over the course of the rest of this game. So, it does mean right now, well, if she had played it before, Spiteful Summoner, rather than kind of having a weak turn here into what could just be a Blizzard clearing everything. It could even, one interesting thing, it's not even necessarily just Blizzard clearing everything here. Korra has Barongeddon. Korra could coin out the Barongeddon and actually have a threat on board against Gia's turn here. I think there's an argument for and against that. The Druid deck doesn't really necessarily deal very well with big minions, but if you play your Barongeddon when you're relatively low, it can end up giving you a trouble yourself as you just kind of whittle away your own health until you do draw that Jaina.
Yep, a pretty stock list from what I see. Doesn't have any of the weird tech that we saw, like Gia had Mojo Master Zhehi in her BS Mage.
All right, what is in the box? Will it be another Hakar?
Hopefully.
It's a Sea Giant.
Just a meager 8/8. Still very powerful, but Big Spell Mage with things like Polymorph and Meteor, very well prepared for it, so not the end of the world. Actually, Gia is in danger of just purely gassing out, and you start to see a little bit of the downside of the deck building portion, where it's like the Scavengers are fantastic if you have a target, but you're not going to be able to get really powerful synergies if all you're playing is, a scuffed Dark Iron Dwarf.
Well, Artificer is an interesting draw for Korra here. It does give her the option to gain some life alongside of Blizzard if she chooses. Going to go ahead and dig a bit. Finds Dragon Fury, but never win those.
Yeah. This is one deck that you probably won't really win consistently against, if ever, with Raven Familiar.
Yeah.
You can if they draw both their Ultimate Infestations.
Well, she knew that there was definitely an Ultimate Infestation in the deck because of the Spiteful Summoner.
Well, she could have held one and then drew the other on her turn, but you're right.
But it doesn't burn it or anything.
It's true.
And she played the Spiteful Summoner on that turn, so it's guaranteed to be in the deck.
It's true. So you could justify maybe holding on to it, but for the most part, it's just purely for board reasons.
The frozen wind.
All right, well, the Scavenger does come down and create a Tar Creeper. That is a legitimate threat at this point. 7 health is not easy for the mage deck to deal with necessarily.
Yes. And now it's almost a gut check time. Do they have Ultimate Infestation? You already saw one was in the deck twice over with the Raven Familiar. I wonder if it's one of those things where if you have like a golden and a non-golden one, it's really important that they stay unified.
Yeah.
Because if you saw one was golden, one that was not golden, I wonder if that would actually end up giving up information.
Well, it's really important to use either all golden or all non-golden cards because doing otherwise is just barbaric.
Whatever you tell yourself to justify to your tax accountant how much money you spend on Hearthstone.
It is so tilting to me anytime I draw a mismatched card. It's just, oof, it is barbaric.
I've gone the way of letting go all golden decks. I just dust everything now and try to play every deck I want to. But, you know, Gia has her own Lich King in response. How does she... I feel like Lich King is just still so good, especially in minion-centric decks like this, because Army of the Dead is just so powerful. And then you have Anti-Magic Shell, which is just brilliant against big spell mages in particular.
Yeah, without Ultimate Infestation here, Gia is in a bit of a pickle here. She can trade off her board here. She could actually save her 2/3 by taking 8 in the face, and I think that's right. She decides, okay, I'm just gonna use my life total as a resource, protect this 2/3, get some damage in.
Right.
I absolutely agree with that play. Does put her in a position to potentially leverage Fungal Mancer. Oh dear, that is a, as Admiral would say, huge draw. You almost want to draw. It was a generated card, but it sounds less exciting. A huge generated card from the Lich King.
Facial hair needs at least a couple of years and a few mistrips to the barber for you to say that one.
Speak to me.
Yeah, especially if Gia can find Keleseth in this game, the Army of the Dead is extremely powerful. One of the issues, though, she hasn't actually cast Ultimate Infestation. If she does Army of the Dead and hits both Ultimate Infestations, it does both really weaken her ability to claw out of the kind of resource deficit she's in right now, as well as neutralize her future Spiteful Summoners.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. This has potential to go disastrously.
Here it goes. Oh, wow.
Okay.
One Infestation and Malfurion. It's not both Infestations, but Malfurion is another very powerful card in this matchup because just keeping the pressure on with that hero power is extremely relevant. It's extremely valuable.
Yeah, and on the flip side too, the minion summoned, they're not that great.
Oh, are they not? There's a Strong Shell Scavenger in the
you're
hand.
right. I forgot that second Stone Shell Scavenger. So I keep wanting to say Stonehill.
It does have
but
a
Strong
lot
Shell Scavenger.
Ooh, that pairs very well with Death and Decay to wipe out the entire board.
Yeah, Death and Decay and Blizzard.
And Cora can even Artificer Coin and get 10 armor here as well.
I like all those options. I like any kind of AoE to destroy the board. This all looks fantastic, and you just saw Ultimate Infestation taken away.
Yeah, and she knows, right, she knows one Infestation is gone. She knows there's no Infestation in hand. That would have been cast. So, this is a very, very promising position, I think, for Cora here. She could even just ping her own Acolyte and not play the Death and Decay, just leave up the Tar Creeper. Get 2 cards off the Acolyte by ping trade.
Yeah, I think she just wants to minimize damage as much as possible, recognizing that she's in a pretty good spot. Without Ultimate Infestation to bail, the less likelihood it's going to be very difficult for Gia to climb back.
Yeah, it does mean she did use 2 AoE effects, though. And, now she doesn't have as good an answer to this, for instance. Oh, we see the Serenite nerf in action. Summons a 2/3 instead of a 3/4. But this is Artificer into Blizzard number 2.
Yeah, Blizzard.
Regardless, Blizzard gaining 11 life here. Or Flame Strike, gaining 14.
Flame Strike seems really good.
Yes, it is.
Wow, what a draw. Big Spell Mage charging back. And now Gia needs to get her other Ultimate Infestation, the one that she didn't discard. And some of her best cards ready to use. She draws it.
All right, well, one of these Artificers will go down. But is it too little too late for Gia here? Because Cora still has a lot of life to work with.
Yeah.
If she hits, now this Artificer, or rather this Archivist and this Spiteful Summoner, the other Infestation is gone. Those do nothing. Those are just a 7-mana 4/4 and an 8-mana 4/7? I'm trying to remember the stats on it. Is it 5/7, 4/7? I don't even know.
I think it's a 5. So it's close. 4 or 5.
Big in. I think it's 5.
I think
it could be death.
The point to make, though, is what you're saying. Those minions have basically nothing to play for except for their baseline stats.
I mean, I could easily, especially with Malfurion gone too, I could easily see Gia just getting fatigued in this game. You're just completely running out of resources because Korra, she just needs to find a little bit more in terms of removal to be able to kill essentially all of the minions in Gia's deck.
It's true. None of what you said is false. I think what ends up being the case, though, is Gia still has a couple of waves of threats. So as long as she can force out things like Blizzard and maybe even the Baron getting suboptimally, she still has some powerful stuff remaining. But for the most part, I'm leaning towards what you just said. It looks very difficult for Gia to climb out.
I mean, she can try to build as big a board here as possible. It is a 4-7.
What's this one do?
What does this one do? The answer is nothing. That's what this one does. Nothing. There's not even a corrupted blood to hit.
What's the even point of playing it if you can't corrupt yourself? You're corrupted blood yourself in the semifinals of a 30K tournament.
And now Korra can just look to kind of pick this apart as well as she can with her board. Blizzard here is okay. It does shut down the threat of a Fungal Mancer, but I don't think it's necessary. I think that she could do enough to deal with this by just playing out minions, perhaps pinging.
Yeah, it's like exactly what you said. Time is on Songbird's side, so if she allows Gia to extend more into the board, that Blizzard gets even better. Baron Geddon gets even stronger in the sense that it deals more damage. It could be also weakened if you let your opponent get out of control with their board state. But if you layer those two threats alone, combined with Blizzard and Baron Geddon's 4 damage AoE, it feels like it should be good enough to get you over the hump of most early game boards, which is pretty much what Spiteful Summer Druid has. They just pretty much have small, like a mid-sized playing around the mind control tech, it seems like.
I don't think there's a mind control tech in Gia's deck.
There is none.
I think maybe Korra was playing around in a broader sense. Maybe she didn't quite remember the exact contents of Gia's deck, or maybe she just wanted to get a little bit of damage on the Grand Archivist just in case there is some sort of buff and it softens it up a little bit, potentially set up into Baron Geddon or Blizzard next turn.
Yeah, doesn't seem like there's mind control tech or anything, but
I mean, to be fair, there was a lot of information these players had to process going into this series. They needed to figure out their bans, they needed to figure out their picks and all of that. And there's 9 decks. It's very easy to potentially not have full information of every single one of them after that entire process.
I mean, she even just played Patcher that also had Spiteful Druid, so it's she comes from the second semifinals. Probably has her deck list maybe mixed around, but I don't think it's going to be of the biggest consequence. Just seeing how everything is shaping up. I mean, heck, you still can't even get rid of this Artificer. It just keeps gaining more and more armor.
Another Blizzard coming in.
Wow.
And she can even protect the Artificer with that Tar Creeper.
Yeah, why not? Just keep gaining more and more life. It's like you said, maybe Gia can stick a minion or two, but are you going to be able to beat, 50, 60 life?
Yeah, you just stick a minion or like 7, because Korra is at 53. That's a lot of life to work through, and these are not Kelseth buff minions. They're just raw stat minions.
I mean, even if they were, they wouldn't be that great because Druid the Scythe and War Druid Loti transforms. They lose the Kelseth buffs.
The scourge will devour all.
The rage, it claims me.
All right, well, the Tar Creeper does go down. Does get out a big minion in the form of the Crypt Lord, but that's just big in health. It doesn't actually threaten Korra very much at all. Dragon's Fury. So they're just gonna say there's still a lot of spells left in Korra's deck.
Yeah, there's the Meteors mainly to look at, and of course the second Dragon's Fury and Polymorph, but the Flame Strikes and the Blizzards are in hand.
Yeah, here, just okay. Yeah, I think both Fungal Mances are gone. I think both of these Structural Scavengers may be gone. So this is just a 1/7. Yeah, we see Gia nearly at fatigue. 1 card left in her deck.
Pinch of death count.
7 cost 4/4. Your turn.
It's so good.
I mean, this is what Gia has left to work with. Her last card is Kelseth. the very last card in her deck is that Keleseth.
Now, Korra can not only clear the board, assuming that this hits, you know, a 4. Actually, she should be able to do it regardless. The lowest is 4.
Right.
Then she can play Doomsayer to set something up as a defensive measure. And it's exactly what you were talking about, Kilber, several turns ago. Playing for the fatigue.
Boom.
Sick.
Every minion in my deck gets +1/+1. Every single one of them. And Gia decides, I gotta throw that out there as my last card. As Korra does even up the series 1-1.
That's right. The best of 5 has now turned into a best of 3 with Big Spell Mage now up for Korra. But Gia gets the first mover's advantage, having won game 1. And now she gets to respond to Big Spell Mage with either her OTK Paladin or her Odd Rogue. What's going to happen? We are just getting underway with the Grand Finals here at WSOE 2. We'll be back in just a moment. Game number 3 is about to begin. This is where it really starts heating up. Who is going to get the advantage and put themselves on tournament point? Will it be Gia from all the way from the Asia Pacific region, or will it be Korra from the Americas, each representing the region, representing themselves too, both as casters and players? If you guys are just tuning in, you missed the second game where Big Spell Mage from Songbird was able to take down Spiteful Summoner Druid from Gia.
Now, this is last year's standing, important to recall. Gia will have her choice of her decks for what she wants to bring up against that Big Spell Mage. And I think there's a very good chance she'll be going to that Paladin.
Yeah, OTK Paladin is definitely a hard deck for Big Spell Mage to beat because Big Spell Mage doesn't exactly put good pressure on anything that tends to win in one turn.
Right, exactly. So one of the big failings of Big Spell Mage is that it is essentially a deck that grinds the opponent out of resources. We just saw last game, Gia went all the way to fatigue. And Korra is going to need to actually end the game in another way, because if Gia gets to draw her entire deck, she will be able to assemble her entire 4 Horsemen combo and end the game in a spot.
She has one of the cards that are important to do it, though. Frotchless Jaina. That is one of the most powerful cards just in Hearthstone, period. And Mage having it in their opening hand is crucial for Songbird to mount some sort of offensive.
It's interesting because Jaina is, yes, very powerful, but I think if I were in Korra's shoes, I don't know if that's necessarily the card that I want in my opening hand. I think that her ability to have like heavy hitting threats rather than just incremental grindy threats like Jaina is potentially more important. I actually think Cinder Gosa might end up being a big factor because it could generate itself a big minion and also potentially bring, you got that one in there again, got to get another one. Potentially bring out some legendary minions that could really mix things up for Gia.
Oh yeah.
But this,
we have sure you weren't like secretly signed by CLG 4 years ago, Brian Kaler, with all the potential you're dropping?
But it is a matchup that we have seen some players include some little unusual cards in their deck, like the Mojo Master. We have seen that in some of the Big Spell Mage decks. And this matchup is one of the reasons why. Because you need to have some way to actually disrupt your opponent's ability to get off their combo in the late game. And we see Korra here, she's playing aggro because she knows she's the one who has to end the game.
Yeah, and I mean, she has to just play things for tempo. But, I really like that you talked about the Cinder Gosa also being a very valuable key tool. There are ways you can stop that combo, but it's going to be very difficult. And I wonder what legendaries will come out. And then Frosted Jaina, maybe even the Jaina being nice to have water elementals to freeze things like weapons, so that way Uther the Ebon Blade can't utilize its lifesteal effect as easily. Yeah,
it is true. You can end up pinning them if you do get a strong draw and they don't have their most important tools. Here, it is actually fairly important that Gia did not hit any card draw with this Call to Arms. It does thin out her deck a little bit, but does not find a loot hoarder to accelerate her further. She still does not have Uther available. She does find a loot hoarder here, but she'd be much happier if that were a card that were just pulled out of her deck and she got another free card off of it.
Yeah, and I think it's starting to see the Youthful Brewmaster having, once again, that 50-50 in terms of sometimes it's in the hand and sometimes it's pulled out of the Call to Arms, but that's why a lot of people are taking it out of their deck list. But you can see that Gia is even utilizing it by trying to use the Spiker Steed and pushing a little bit with this. I like it.
And now, this is a situation where Korra could answer with a Polymorph. She doesn't have one. So she doesn't have a great way to immediately deal with this board from Gia. Can Flame Strike it away, does still leave a 2/6.
Yeah, but it's something that we noticed a lot when it came to Slissa's match against OTK Paladin. There's just not many things to AoE in the Paladin deck. When Call to Arms is kind of it, They can go a little wide, but that's nothing you can't handle. In fact, most of the minions that get played are often fodder for just summoning another Water Elemental with Frosted Jaina.
Yeah, and here, Gia, she's just going to play some more stuff out. It gives her a Divine Shield minion, a card draw minion, and she's saying, okay, well, if you just try and play something big into this, I'm going to be able to play Terra and make your life, a lot more difficult. If you just leave this up, I can be pushing some damage and leaving you in a position where you need to play reactively to me.
All right, well, Gia picks up another Loot Hoarder. Really nice pickup there because she just wants to keep drawing through her deck. Has to be a little bit careful about hand size, but shouldn't be that big of an issue. And she can just keep pushing. She saw no Polymorph. As you guys can take a look at her deck list here. Pretty much just centered on that second to last card. Uther the Ebon Blade wants to pick up Zola the Gorgon and another Ancient Brewmaster.
Yeah, her deck is built around bouncing the 4 Horsemen until you have all of them, and just playing 3 out from your hand and activating your hero power to win the game in a single turn. That is not something that a deck simply full of removal spells is good at dealing with, because so much of the action takes place in your turn and they can't interact with it with their removal.
Now Frosted Jaina has hit the board. Gia recognized it's not going to be very easy to even just hero power. You know, you can't.
I was gonna say, did that Call to Arms do anything? I think she may have actually hit all of her minions so far. We've seen both copies of Loot Hoarder, both copies of Righteous Protector, both copies of Wild Pyromancer.
Blood Mage Thanos?
One copy of Blood Mage Thanos. She played to turn 2. I think that is literally a dead card at this point. It's 5 mana, do nothing. 5 mana, discount Shirvala.
So it's not
investing in your future.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, investing into Shirvala is okay. Shirvala eventually Moon. I'm trying to find the best way for Gia to get out of the situation.
Putting that lower on a layaway plan.
It really does summon nothing. That's pretty funny as a good spot killer. But, you know, it's one of the things, too, that we mentioned, that Gia doesn't have that many great plays. It's on the onus for Korra to present those threats. Yeah, and she now can with Syndragosa.
Right, Syndragosa time here. It does give Korra a 8/8 and a 3/6 thanks to the ping from Jaina here. So we'll see what's in the box, what comes off this Frozen Champion. Oh! Rin! I don't know that there's enough time for Rin the First Disciple to actually come together and end this game, but that is a new clock for Korra here. Because the seals put Gia on a clock. She does not find Uther, does not find all of her pieces, and Azari comes down. That just ends the game.
Yes. For people who do not know what Rin the First Disciple does, it adds a seal to your hand. It costs 5 mana, and you have to keep playing it until 6 seals are played, and then you get a minion that says destroy your opponent's deck. And if Uther the
Floop, she can get 2 of them if she wants.
All right.
You don't need that many seals, but you could floop Azari, destroy their deck twice.
The point is, this changes a lot. All of a sudden, Mage actually has a real game plan that doesn't involve, you know, hoping that your opponent doesn't have removal tools for your big minions.
And it's not even just Uther either. It's Uther or any of the bounce effects. If Azari gets off and Gia hasn't drawn her entire combo, it puts Korra in a position where she can use those removal effects to actually disrupt the one-turn kill and just win via fatigue.
Precisely.
So that is a huge result off of that Frozen Champion. Part of the question here is, okay, well, what is the state of Gia's deck? How many cards does she have left? If there's, you know, not enough cards that she can actually complete the seals here, you know, maybe she doesn't want to go for it. Maybe she wants to just try and take a different attack.
I mean, it's hard to argue that you know, whether or not Gia does have the card or not. I think it just comes down to looking at her deck, looking at probability, thinking about other stuff like, oh, she played Call to Arms and didn't have anything pulled out.
Right.
So it gives you a lot of information. And now we see another bounce effect with the Zola the Gorgon being drawn. So, you know, Gia having Uther in the bottom few cards of her deck is not as likely as it is to be with, you know, being drawn the next couple turns. So, you know, Korra instead wants to put out a better offensive with her current minions and summon a water which I can't blame her.
I don't know. I feel like Rin takes so long to get going, and you have the Dragon's Fury, so there's a turn where you can seal Dragon's Fury if you need to like wipe off the board of the minions that are buffed by Tarim here. So I feel like you don't necessarily have a lot of window to actually get Rin online before it no longer becomes a legitimate plan.
I agree.
Reporting for duty.
It's one of those things where, you know, Hearthstone's offering you lemons. And I think this should definitely give Korra the idea of what's happening here. Gia just hero powered.
Right.
Which means that, you know, she's basically not going to do anything and knows that she's probably going to clear the board next turn or try to clear the board, which means that Rin will most likely die.
Right.
And now you gave yourself yet another turn where you don't have that opportunity. But, I mean, maybe Korra has bigger plans too. She just used 2 big spells. So if Equality comes down and a Consecration, does that mean Songbird just drops Dragon Caller or Lana and then just counter pushes right back when Gia just used her best removal?
Yeah, she can.
I mean, I think that's exactly what she's doing. Maybe she says, I'm not trying to win in like 12 turns from now through a Rin. I'm trying to win through Dragon Caller or Lana.
Yeah, and that's a very reasonable plan. We have seen a number of times that Paladin's been up against the ropes, and it's like, okay, you need Equality. Okay, you need another Equality.
Lich King. So if Korra plays Lich King, that means she wasn't setting up the Dragon Call
If she Alana's, she can floop the Alana.
Yo, okay, now that's something I wasn't thinking about.
Oh, I was just thinking, oh, if she plays Lich King, well, this, and I'm like, wait, she could floop the Alana.
That is
and if
sick.
she Alana's, one equality consecration is gone. If the other equality comes in, she has just another Alana, and she can even play a spell before the flooped Alana.
I've never done that before, so I didn't even think about the interaction. I think she wants to go one more round of removal before she does that.
I was just like really kind of fixated on this Rin plan, and then realized the implications of floop Alana, and that is a major threat. There's the equality here, and frankly, Lich King is a real threat because Lich King can give Korra Death Grip, which can hit one of those bounce minions.
That's great. And if it works out really well, considering that Gia has that, the equality drawn number 2, or second equality, excuse me, then that ends up being a perfectly layered offensive to the point where it almost feels like Big Spell Mage has a real way to beat control decks because of Dragon Call Alana.
I was talking about the importance of Cindergosa. The things that come off Cindergosa are often sort of the X factor that give you the way to actually punch through these situations. Obviously, these are 2 incredibly impactful cards. All right, well, time out.
Wow.
Is what Gia's gonna go for here. She's saying, okay, well, I don't want to pull the trigger on equality. I want to just swing in and potentially kill this over 2 turns.
Okay, so now back over to
Can Death Call to heal it up?
Yeah.
I mean, and then Korra could play the Rin if she wants, which kind of gives her a 2-pronged attack. If you do clear this board, great. If you don't, well, great. I have this other plan too.
Yeah. No, it makes it makes a lot of sense in this position.
And I like this self-ping. I just saw the hero power go over on the... you see a little laugh from both players there.
Oh, but Gia has no idea the worst is yet to come.
Yeah, and the ping on the Artificer does mean that if this board isn't cleared, Korra can make a Water Elemental off of the Artificer. So self-pings are something that you do need to look for when you are Jaina.
I wonder in Gia's mind too, because she clearly looks pretty distraught from the Rin. But if I'm Gia, I'm also thinking, why did it take so long to play the Rin? Wouldn't she want to play that really fast, given that I haven't played Death Knight yet? And I think if she's able to center in on that, maybe she can even deduce exactly what Songbird was just trying to do, which is bait and equality clear.
Yeah, and I mean here, she still needs to clear this Lich King. This Lich King is still a problem. She does not have her ways to actually deal with this. Linessa's going to come down, and it does get steeded, but there's Polymorph. And Korra does have the tools to just continue to punch through for damage.
Yeah, this might even not necessarily be anything we're talking about. It might not be Rin getting the seals. It might not be Dragon Call on the big board. It might just be simply tempo because Gia she's refused to remove the Lich King.
Right. And now Korra, she can Polymorph Obliterate, get both of these, push a lot of damage.
Yep. Get even a Water Elemental.
And then Gia is forced to pull the trigger on her Equality Consecration or die next turn. And then Alana comes down, and then there's even the Flooped Alana after that, but just the first one's going to be enough to get the job done.
Yeah. And, at this point, I think Gia sees the writing on the wall. Body language says everything, and I have to hand it to Korra. This was navigated beautifully.
Yeah,
she didn't even need the second wave of resources.
I mean, frankly, you can say, oh, she has this Rin. It's so lucky off of the Cindergosa. She doesn't need that Rin. It's just this game is she's winning with the cards in her deck already.
It's a Fen Creeper.
Right. It really has been just a Fen Creeper, and now Gia's down to 8. Here comes Pyro Equality, but then Alana comes down next turn. Both equalities are gone. I mean, a lot of this is Gia has not been able to find her Uther. She hasn't really, she drew that Called Arms. It did nothing. She wasn't able to get any, we see just a nod of acknowledgement from Gia. Okay, well, I knew that was coming. She didn't know the flooped version might be coming.
Right, but I mean, it doesn't even matter. Kind of like you said, the cards in the deck are good enough. And no sign of Uther.
Oh, timeout? That's going to buy her time, but the problem is she doesn't have Uther. She has no way to assemble any of her combo really here. She has no more mass removal available for this. And we may even just see the style points coming down with the flooped Alana. Or just seals. All right.
Seals are also
We've
good.
got all sorts of different style wins available
Which
here.
Which also invest into the Dragon Caller Alana, too.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, it makes the second one even stronger.
The flooped one is going to be even better.
Right.
But it's not going to be needed. Uther is the draw for Gia, but that is too little too late.
Wow. this. So how much damage? It'd be goes up to 21.
And she's already used both her timeouts. She does not have those resources to buy her the time that she would need to actually assemble the combo. Korra just pushes this damage here, 14, and seal.
Yep.
Keep it going.
Keep putting more minions on the board.
She doesn't have to worry about overdrawing. She doesn't care about any of the cards in her deck. This is all she needs to win this game.
I'm almost out of cards.
And Gia does have all those tools, but does not have the time to enable them. Shirvala, oh, actually, well,
Shirvala Zola
this,
or
but
bounce?
Shirvala Zola, Shirvala Bounce can give her the ability to actually clear off a lot of this on the board.
Yeah, but how do you win?
Right, then she doesn't have the tools to win. She's needs these minions in her hand to actually execute her combo.
Yeah.
So even double, triple Shirvala here, that's gonna be answered by a Dragon's Fury from Korra, and then there's just still more gas where that came from. There's just still another Alana. I mean, if she doesn't do this, she is dead.
Right.
So this does break up her actual win condition, and that is unfortunate for Gia. But she has to do this in order to have any hope of surviving.
And, if in her mind, she says, if I can stick a minion on the board, maybe I have an opportunity to piece together a combo, but just not in one turn, over 2 turns.
Is there a world in which Korra has no more spells on her deck? Her Dragon's Fury can't clear.
She still has Meteor.
Yeah.
Like
No, she has 2
meteors.
meters in her hand.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's like that alone
Right.
should be enough, too. And I mean, it's like you said, you can play a big spell, trade, and then just go Dragon Call Alana one more time, and actually set up the follow-up lethal.
Oh, she's just clearing this off, yeah, with the flooped Alana. I don't think this flooped Alana is really necessary, but it is going to be a beautiful style win with the army of dragons for Korra here, as she takes a matchup that was expected to be very difficult, but we said yes, the value of the legendaries from Tindagosa was very high, but I don't think they were necessary for her to win that game.
Regardless, Korra is 1 game away from immortality in the WSOE, as she is up 2-1, and all that remains is Gia's Odd Rogue to pull her out of this deficit.
Yeah, and Odd Rogue is a powerful deck against Korra's remaining decks. This is the Odd Mage, which can tend to be sometimes a little bit slow. Doesn't necessarily answer Hench Clan Thug quickly unless it has a Dragon's Fury to clear off early boards. And then the Death Rattle Hunter. So this is by no means decided, even if that win was a very big one for Korra.
Yeah, and I guess at least for 1 game, Kibler, we can see who's the true mother of dragons. The Dragon Call Alana coming out, summoning just an army nonstop, and you can even see Gia took it in pretty good stride, taking off her heads and just kind of like even laughing a little bit with Korra as they were talking about what just transpired in front of everybody watching from around the world.
Yeah, and it has been great to see the camaraderie among all the competitors in this tournament. Despite there being a lot in the line here, big competition, lots of money involved, they've all been laughing and having fun and really enjoying the event. And this could possibly be the final game of this event, as Korra is just 1 game away from becoming the WSOE Showdown champion.
You can't just say possibly as if it's going to sidestep potentially, Kibler. It's too close.
You got to have a wide range, Rodan. You gotta be able to have many ways to say the same thing.
Many possible ways?
Many possible ways, many potential ways to say maybe.
Yeah, well, this is a really ugly hand for Odd Rogue, I must say.
It is not good. There is that ornery tortoise. That's a big fellow. The damage to Gia is not terribly significant in this matchup, and it is a difficult minion for a damage-based removal deck to remove early on. And yeah, Korra's gonna respect it with this Voodoo Doll right away.
Yep, taking it very seriously, but at the same time not overreacting with a coin. Still has some really powerful tools. AoE, single target removal, armor gain. This is looking very good for Korra. Gia has good cards, but she needs to piece together better offensive.
Yeah, she does have one of the more important cards in the matchup, though, in her hand, which is the Myra's Unstable Element. Because the way that this Mage deck wins so often, as we saw in the first game, is running your opponent out of stuff. And Myra's Unstable Element gets you a lot of stuff.
Gia stuck with a hard decision if she wants to get this Cold Blood damage in, but the truth is, Cold Blood's not going to get really much more than 4 damage just because Mage has so much removal tools that it's very unlikely that, you know, this gets more than 1 hit.
And does use her dagger. Ooh, that's Jaina. That's
Oh, man. If I'm Cora, I don't even know how to contain my excitement at this point. I can smell the $15,000.
Yeah, that Jaina represents a clock here because Gia, even if she does have the unstable element, does have limited time before Cora is just going to get very powerful tools online and start gaining life and getting out of range of any of that possible burst. And that's one thing you hate to see as an odd rogue player is, oh, I Vile Spine Slayer for tempo. 3, 4 for 5, go.
Well, the Dynamo is still an okay draw in this position for setting up either a Combo Enabler or the Fungalmancer, but it's not ideal.
Well, the Fungalmancer here does let the Vile Spine push through the Tar Creeper. You do push 4, potentially 6 damage if you use your weapon here. And you know, that said, Cora does have, she has Blizzard, she has Arcane Artificer, she has lots of ways to help pick this apart and keep herself afloat.
Yes. Without that Artificer, I would say that this is still a pretty scary offensive from the Odd Rogue, because now you're past the halfway point.
There is an interesting argument of, do you want to use Coin Blizzard here? You play the Artificer in Coin Blizzard, so you do end up getting that 6 life. But you do have a Jaina in hand, and I like holding the coin to potentially cast that Jaina earlier on, because that is the clock. You're using your clock of what it takes for your opponent to actually really be able to close out by a full turn. But unstable element. Now Gia is saying, okay, well, I just need to find enough to run you out of stuff.
What is this? This is junk.
Okay.
No Leroy!
Well, double deadly poison is pretty exciting. That is significant burst damage, but Cora has the Gluttonous Ooze.
Oh, man. Yeah, if I'm Cora, I'm going on full defense mode.
Keep me alive.
Yes.
Keep me afloat. Polymorph. And next turn is Coin Jaina. If Gia does not have just a big board that threatens a lot, but she just drew a lot of cards, so Gia's in a situation where, you know, she is trying to play around the threat of AoE, because that's one of the things that she can easily run into against this big spell mage, but Cora doesn't have it. So if Gia actually just throws a bunch of stuff on the board, if she plays Henge Clan, Dagger, hit you, she has a very good chance of possibly being able to actually run away with this. There's no Flame Strike. There's no Dragon's Fury in Cora's hand. And if she gets just a bunch of minions in play, that could be enough to punch through the Jaina if Cora does not find an AoE.
Right. Well, Cora has AoE through the form of Baron getting to refill life, though, with Crossage Jaina.
But is that enough? You know, if Jaina comes down and there's 2 unanswered Henge Clan thugs plus more follow-up,
It'll be 5 attack on each hand. Oh, no double Henge Clan thug. Gia's trying to hedge.
yeah, I'm not.
Oh man, she's trying to be really cautious. And by doing so, does
Does
this
this
off the window?
Does this give Cora too much time? Cora finds Flame Strike. So she could just Flame Strike here. That leaves just a 1/1 in play. She can Flame Strike Coin Ping, which means that there's no threat of a Fungalmancer coming down and increasing the damage.
I mean, this ends up being a lot better for Gia because she didn't overextend into that Flame Strike.
Takes 2 damage from fatigue. Cora is at 15. Gia's next push is crucial, but there's Jaina waiting.
Can you call it even a push? There's Fireflies and Dire
It
Wolves.
is, well, there is still a Henge Clan Thug, and there are those 2 deadly poisons. And those deadly poisons, if Cora does not Gluttonous Ooze immediately, and if she Gluttonous Ooze, she can't Jaina. But Gluttonous Ooze, I think, may be the major swing here as 6 damage comes in, but 6 life will be gained from that Ooze, and there's the Voodoo Doll as well. Voodoo Doll Ping Ooze, go all the way back up to 15, clear off that Henge Clan Thug.
Oh man, I think 1 Leroy would make the biggest difference here, but Gia does not have it. Celiacs off the top!
Oh dear, that may just be the nail in the coffin. 15, 18, Taunt in the way, Divine Shield in the way.
Lock it up. Gia can't do anything substantial to push lethal this turn. And that gives finally Songbird the breathing room.
And the Vile Spine does come through. And there is still this Hench Clan Thug. She is pushing 7, 8 damage. It's Cora down to 10.
It's really close.
Lich King. I mean, I wonder if the Ziliax...
Hold on.
Hold on, I'm holding.
There's 15.
8, 9,
It's
10,
15.
11, 12,
She's at 15.
13. Well, there's 14, 15 from that,
There's
that
15
SI
on the
agent.
board. Gia
This is
holding. She
Gia-
held the Flame Elemental just so she could get this combo damage.
And that is exact lethal the turn Cora plays the Jaina. We were saying we weren't sure she could get it done, but that is exactly enough to send this to a game 5. I do want to take a moment. The turn that Cora drew the Ziliax, she could have killed that Hench Clan Thug instead.
Yeah.
And still had Ziliax to follow up and not have taken the damage from the Hench Clan Thug. And I wonder if that may have changed the outcome of that game.
It did. Brian Kibler, no spoiler, it did. Not killing the Hench Clan Thug ended up being the difference maker. And Gia, by the hair of her chinny chin chin, was able to get over the hump and send it right back into game 5 in a matchup that now she is very favored in.
Yeah, this has been a back and forth, absolutely swingy grand final here, and we're going to game 5. We're going to one final game for all the marbles.
TJ, talk to me. What was that?
I don't even know what to say, to be honest. We've had 2 matchups that looked like they were one-way favored and just swung the other way right at the end there. That was a big matchup for Cora to win as well if she were to take it, because now she has to go Odd Rogue versus Hunter.
She could have played Lich King on that last turn instead of Jaina and survived. She made, I think, the second best defensive play, and it got her killed by a very narrow margin.
Yeah, the Ziliax is the play that I'm looking at. As Brian Kibler said, had an option to kill the Hench Clan Thug, but maybe got a little bit ahead of herself, got too excited about the draw.
Exactly, and that's what I'm looking at here. Cora's played the last 4 or 5 turns this game, very rapid pace. She's relying on instinct. She's going, don't overthink it, just play the cards that you know are good and hope that they're good enough. But when your opponent uses Myra's Unstable Element, there's a lot of traps you can fall into, and especially against Odd Rogue, a deck that has a lot of different ways to use its cards in a very efficient manner. And I think if Cora just instead had slowed herself down and tried to think about what are the pitfalls and how do I lose these games, she's going to come to that conclusion. Why wouldn't Gia play the extra 1/2 if she's trying to make a push with the last card she's got? Yeah. SI7 Agent, I think, is a reasonable read you can make in that situation and go, you know what, I can count the damage here. I can lose this game, play a little bit more defensively. And I think there's multiple of those opportunities throughout. Just getting a little bit ahead of herself. Needs to take a breather. The excitement's really getting to her.
Yeah, but a really tough matchup. And that means we're going to a game number 5. And of course, we have the last poll of the day. So get your votes in. Who's going to take this game 5 and become the WSOE 2 champion? Will it be Gia or will it be Cora? And we're going to get right into that game number 5. So Brian Kibler, Frodan, take it away.
One last game to decide it all. Would you want it any other way, Brian Kibler?
No, all I want is to somehow see a car in this game too. That would be really the capper to this tournament. I don't think it's possible, but maybe there'll be a bug somehow.
Yeah, and perhaps the hands of destiny are starting to shift on the clock. You know, what's happening here? Before, it felt like Cora was in the driver's seat. I was almost ready to write her the check. I was telling you how close she was.
It was looking like Cora was in an absolutely dominant position, but oftentimes when you are in those dominant positions, it's easy to, as the guys were saying, get ahead of yourself. To just sort of play by instinct, not really evaluate every single possible implication of your decisions.
Right.
And now we're in a situation where Cora is going to be in an uphill battle, because this is a tough matchup for Death Rattle Hunter.
Boy.
And that is a good draw for Gia.
Yeah, it's a cold blood that's going to be hard to answer without Candle Shot. Although Cora does have an okay hand with the Devil's Sore Egg and the Terrorist Conqueror and the Gluttonous Ooze.
Yeah, both players actually have very strong hands here, which is exactly what I want to see in this final game. I don't want to see one player just get run over. I want to see a close one.
Oh my goodness, Kibler. You might not get that chance. Well, Gia can go for the throat here.
Yeah, but when she gets to 9 mana, that's 2 giant monsters.
Kibler, what is this fantastic mythical world you described known as turn 9 against Odd Rogue?
I was kind of joking, but Keliseth on 3, not exactly when you want it. Devilsaur Egg does come down, and there is a Terraskull Stalker to create a Devilsaur, but like you mentioned, that is a 5/1 Divine Shield minion. No Candle Shot, 6 more damage. Cora's already done a 19 before she's played anything with any amount of power.
Your weakness betrays
Gia has Coin Fungal Mancer as a possibility. And now with that Divine Shield minion having that 5 attack, so hard to remove, and it's only going to get worse.
Mushroom Power.
Oh my gosh, it's turn 4!
Damage. Cora's at 6. That's Leroy Jenkins in the hand.
She's dead!
9-drop, 9-drop, 8-drop in Cora's hand. She was so close just moments ago, but now Gia is on the precipice of the championship.
It's been a wonderful 2 days of competition. We've had 16 of the Hearthstone best players in the world, and Gia is gonna land on top. Ladies and gentlemen, may we present to you the champion for the WSOE 2 Hearthstone Showdown. It is Gia from the Philippines.
She has been a caster among the top tournaments in the world, and now she's a champion among top players in the world.
$15,000 richer with a $1,000 guaranteed bounty. We'll count up the rest, but you can see the first immediate reaction is elation and respect, hugging Cora from across the stage. And what a way to wrap up the day and the weekend. I did not expect that series to go the way it did, Kibler, but you gotta say, that was some exciting Hearthstone that we watched.